everyone. My name is Iman. This is my long travel Toyota Tacoma. This is going to be the third build walk around that I'm doing because the truck has many changes throughout the years. So this is kind of the third update of my long travel Toyota Tacoma review. So we're going to go from front to the back, cover everything that's changed. If you've been keeping up with the build updates, nothing's going to be new here. This is just for if you haven't seen any of the build updates or haven't been keeping up with the truck progress, then this is pretty much what has happened since the last time you saw my other video of the long travel Toyota Tacoma build. So first off, let's start. You guys probably already know with suspension. We're going to start from scratch. Dirt King long travel 3.5 kit. I believe it pulls somewhere around 13.5 inches of travel to 14, somewhere around there. It has a 3.0 triple tube bypass from Fox. These are actually spec for an F-150 in there, but we squeeze them into this Toyota Tacoma, so it's got a lot of bump stopping power. I guess you could say a lot of good compression, good rebound. I'm going to be putting front bump stops in there. Speaking of bumps, that's going to be when the truck goes back for the second phase of the fourth episode of the build update. So a lot of episodes going on right now. It gets kind of confusing, but yeah, 3.0 bypass and a Fox 2.5 coilover with dual speed compression. Going to the wheels and tires, 17-inch negative 12 offset Innovate Racing. These are the G600 forged and the gold anodized. I got a Tech Light bead lock ring. These are true bead locks, and it's wrapped in a Toyo MT 295 7017. So an actual true 33, maybe 33 and a half, because Toyo's run bigger. But previously I was running the 285s and a BFG, which was smaller. So those are like a 32, so we bumped up about an inch to an inch and a half in the tire. I can't run 35s, I've tried. It's just so much unnecessary work to fit 35s on a small truck like this. It's a mid-size truck. I believe 35s and 37s, 40s should go on full-size trucks with all that extra room in the wheel well and more horsepower, importantly. Let's talk about this right now. I actually just put this on 5 minutes ago. These are my own custom, pretty much mud flaps that I put on made of aluminum. So I just shaped some aluminum to the fiberglass here and cut these out, painted them to match the paint itself. That's actually Ace Hardware gray spray paint. It matches to the cement 1H5 pretty well. So these are a test run right now. I'm gonna go test it out. I put those on here. They kind of hang low, but I didn't want them to hang lower than the actual body line so it doesn't catch up on anything, so I have those measured. But this is to protect this from ever happening again, because I don't have PPF, I don't have anything here, and the rocks have just been chewing this up. I'm getting new fiberglass to put on here from Glasscraft. I have it Line-X on the inside. I'm gonna paint it, put PPF, and hopefully with those mud flaps, it'll stop those rocks from coming up and hitting it here. So yeah, I do have front mud flaps now. It looks kind of weird, but at the same time, I kind of like it, but it's about performance and protecting the bodywork. Moving to the rear, a lot has changed in the rear. I still have the Dirt King bed cage in here with a Fox 3.0 bypass. You can come over here and see under the wheel well. These are a 3.0 3.2 bypass as well with Fox 2.0 bump stops right here and a Kibitech aluminum pump cap. It's a little unique touch right there. The biggest thing that we've changed in the rear end is the rear end itself. So if you want to come look under the truck, this suspension kit, when it was an OEM rear end, cycled about 17 3/4 or 18 inches of travel. Right now I'm strapped at around 17 inches, I believe. It's pretty much the exact same amount of travel because we put a new Dirt King rear end, so it's a little taller, I guess you could say. So I lost about half an inch of travel, but it's nothing noticeable. So yeah, Dirt King full floater rear end, so full floating axles. These are 40 spline, and in the middle is a nice beefy spool. I didn't want to do a lock or anything because I don't daily this thing, or like a limited time locker, I should say. So this is fully locked at all times. I only off-road this vehicle, so the spool is gonna be great traction out there. We're gonna organize those brake lines when the truck goes back to Louis in the next 1 or 2 months. And yeah, these are a Deaver, I believe there's an HD pack spring under kit with this rear end and Spider Track unit bearings. Yeah, now we got axles going all the way out to here. So it's a healthy rear end, no more wheel spacers. I had 2-inch wheel spacers to clear the bypass. So this is a 70-inch rear end, I believe. It's 2.5 inches wider on each side than it was OEM. So I gained half an inch of width on this rear end compared to what I had before with the wheel spacers. So I'm even wider than I was before, which is pretty sweet. And that rear end is fully trussed and beefy. It's good to go. I have an Evan Weller third member under here. Bring the camera here. That is the third member there. The gear ratio is a 529 gear ratio. We modified the OEM drive shaft. It's a two-piece drive shaft, as you see connecting here. Do not run a one-piece like I did before. That's a story that I covered on my previous video where I broke my drive shaft. But yeah, the rear end is crazy. So I got 529 gears with that full floating rear end locked. The traction is great. It cycles really well on the engine as far as the RPMs go. It stays nice and low. I'm actually able to shift into 6th gear. With the 48s and the 33s, it was non-existent. I wasn't shifting. It just kept going gear hunting back and forth. It was a pain. It was just super loud. It was droning on the highway. But now with the 529s and this whole setup, it actually drives fantastic. I had to cut the video here because there is something I forgot to mention. The entire rear chassis from this point going back is plated, and when we sent to Louis, we actually plated in the front of the chassis here. Bring the camera, you can see it is now plated up here as well, because these were weak points that Dirt King found on these trucks. So everything is now plated there for more structural strength on the chassis itself. So when we're putting the front bumps in, that's going to be a project, but when we rip everything out, we're probably going to drop the diff and everything like that, so we can put some motor mounts on here from Solid Motorsports. So that's going to be fun. And then I also forgot to mention that there is now a Tundra steering rack on here. Can't believe I was going to leave that out. So I have solid tie rods here. These are steel. These are not billet, but these are from RC Fabrication. I have a boot on here to protect everything, and it goes to a Tundra rack in here. So this Tundra rack is from Basic Biker, and this Tundra rack is beefy. It was a project to put this in, and then I also switched, which we won't be able to see right now, we switched to a solid steering shaft instead of the OEM crumple shaft, which was pretty bulky, and it has those crumple points in case you crash. But now I switched to a solid steering shaft for clearance, because the Tundra rack does move your rack location back a couple millimeters, which is a problem for clearance. So we have to change the steering shaft, and my turning radius on here is not good whatsoever, but I have a beefier steering rack. So 3-point turns are non-existent anymore if I ever need to. It is a 10-point turn now. So I need to put some steering stops in here because my tie rod actually hits the coilover when I am at full turn. So that is literally my steering stop, is the coilovers, but I kind of memorized where that is. So I stop steering right before I hit those. In the front here, we have 6-piston Willwood brakes, and these things are beefy. So we want to put some stopping power up here. So we went with the Willwood 6-piston brakes from Dirt King. Actually, they have these for the 3rd gen and 2nd gen Toyota Tacomas. And if we go to the rear here, which I forgot to mention on the rear end, I have 4-piston brakes and rotors, so no more drums back here. So we have a actual stopping truck with minimal horsepower, but stopping out there is very important, because there's many times where we're hitting the trails and the deer will come out of nowhere, or next thing you know, this trail just comes out of nowhere, and we need that stopping power. Right now, obviously, there's no ABS with this system, so when I hit those brakes, it locks up immediately. So I just have to be really careful out there. But man, it is a game-changing difference going to the Willwoods compared to what I had OEM. It just like locks up and you are, bam, you're stopped. So great brake package for the front and the rear that we upgraded on this setup. And honestly, going back to the rear end, not having any wheel spacers on this truck is a nice relief. They were pretty good on the rear. I would never put wheel spacers in the front of your truck, especially if you're off-roading. There's just too much stress on the hubs. And I got the hub-centric ones from, I believe, I forgot the name of the brand, but they were hub-centric 2-inch Bora wheel spacers for the rear, and those things did phenomenal. But it's just nice knowing I don't have any wheel spacers, and the wheels are actually completely bolted to the hub in the front and the rear. So it's just an overall stronger setup and healthy setup. And then let's jump to the roof rack. Yes, I am running a roof rack. I've been talking so much about how I hate overland trucks, but here I am, because I'm actually going to be using this. This is an up-top overland roof rack, and honestly, it looks sweet. I have the side panels paint matched to the 1H5. I have 7 Baja Designs LP4s going across the top here. They aren't wired. I'm waiting for my wiring harness from Blaze Off-Road. So once I get those, these will all be connected to my app. And this roof rack will hold my rifle up there, my bow and arrow, other camping accessories when I go camping. I don't really have room in the bed for anything. There's too much stress there to put any sort of rack because of all the suspension movement. And yeah, so Racer Edition Onyx 6 30-inch Racer Edition. This is not the standard Onyx 6. This is the XL80 Racer Edition. So these three paired up is one giant laser beam right down the trail. It is ridiculous. And then paired with these 7 LP4s, which I have yet to turn on, is going to be nuts off-road. So I'm really excited to see how much lighting I'm going to have. If we come back around, 4 Amber Baja Designs rock lights here. We're all Baja Designs on this truck. It is the best brand. I'm not a spokesperson for them. Baja Designs, if you're seeing this, you know, sponsor me, that'd be sick. But yeah, these rock lights, so if I'm ever around the truck here, if I'm off-roading, I need to see to my left or right, I have those lights now. And these LP4s also have these reflectors here, side lighting, so I'm able to see to my side when I'm off-roading, which is a huge help. So that is a really cool feature on all the LP series. So there'll be light shooting out. And then if we come back here, I have the Eagle Manufacturing third brake light with an ST Pro in amber. So I have backlighting as well. I don't have a chase bar. It's just something I haven't really gotten into yet. Most of the times I'm off-roading alone, but if I am off-roading with other people, it is plenty of light to turn on, so the person behind you won't run into you when you're off-roading. So that's a great feature. Let's go to the bed. Newest addition is this bottle opener. Come check it out. I got a Yeti bottle opener in here. Yep. Whenever we use that, if anybody needs a bottle opener, I got one now. So I put a Yeti cooler here. I used to have 2 Pelican 1510s here, but it got to the point where I went camping so much, spent so much time out there, I started converting the other case into a cooler, and it just wasn't doing good. So I kind of squeezed everything into that case as far as tools go, and then now I have a Yeti cooler in here. And I have these D-rings that are supporting it. I have D-rings everywhere. So these brackets you see here are supporting the jack, the spare tire, and everything. And I went with these because the other D-rings you buy online, or the ones that come included to tie your cooler or cases down, are usually just 2 bolts, but this has a strike plate underneath. I say strike plate, it looks like a strike plate, but it's a normal plate, so it disperses the pressure into the bed a lot easier with the bolts, so the bolts won't rip out or damage the composite bed. So these are a great option. I got these on Amazon. They're powder coated black, and they hold everything correctly without putting too much stress on the composite bed. I got the Pro Eagle jack there sitting on top of the spare tire and wheel right there. Healthy amount of weight in the rear right now behind the axle. I need a lot of weight back here, especially with this new rear end. It is a stiff setup on the street. So this thing is off-roading only. You hit a speed bump, the suspension will not cycle. So you gotta be hitting whoops at least above 30 miles an hour to really start utilizing these shocks in this whole setup, because the shocks all the way around are 200 PSI of nitrogen in each shock. So they're pretty charged. And for a mid-size application, it's fantastic. Next thing I'm gonna be doing, do I have the keys? Where are the keys to this truck? I don't have the keys, but if you come over here and look, I put some Alpha bucket seats, which I've covered in a previous video. They are gray and black to match the interior, but we'll cover that in another video when we go and dive into the interior, because this thing's getting sent to be caged in the next 2 to 3 months. It's gonna be a chrome ollie TIG welded cage. So it's gonna cover the entire center. It's gonna be a 10-point cage inside. It's gonna tie in here. I'm gonna do a little V design so the cage looks great if you bring the camera. So it's gonna kind of match the pattern of this bed cage, and it's gonna be shaped like a V when it cuts out from the cab. And it's gonna mount on top of here, because if you start off-roading this truck like I do, really aggressively, these bed bolt areas here, since this is a bolt-on cage and not a weld-on cage, puts a lot of stress on the bolts and starts to actually crack your chassis here, which almost happened, but we caught that perfect timing and repaired it. So to eliminate that from happening with all the up travel stress, we're gonna have the cage tie into here, and the cage is also gonna be running through, going to an engine cage inside, going to the shock tower. So everything's gonna be one solid unit, and everything's gonna be connected, so it's gonna be fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to that. A lot of people have been telling me to cage my truck for safety, but I'm honestly looking more to the benefits of the cage itself, linking everything together and being one tight build. So it's just going to be the suspension moving, and it's going to take a lot of stress off the cab and all the moving parts. So I'm really excited for that. No modifications to the engine. Like I said, with the 529 re-gear, with the spool in the back, traction's great, healthy horsepower, everything's shifting correctly. I love it. I'm going to run this engine to the ground because, you know, it came with the truck. Why just toss it? And it's perfectly reliable. at the end of the day, I want this to be the ultimate Toyota Tacoma build. Not so much like a pre-runner, but a fully functioning Toyota Tacoma, right? Long travel, four-wheel drive, everything, and reliability is what Toyota stands behind. So that's what I want this to be. Obviously, when the engine goes out, I am going to swap the motor. I'm not going to do any supercharger, procharger. If I'm spending that much money, I want a lot of horsepower and I want a V8. So that's what I'm going to go for. I've already talked to a lot of people. It is going to be the LSX 454, but I'm going to wait because right now I have no issues and it's not something I want to dive into right now because there's a lot of things I'm already working on this truck. And once everything gets check marked off my book, then the LSX will be next when the engine starts to lose its life. But yeah, that's pretty much it for now on this build. So when we do the cage and everything like that, we'll definitely come back and do a walk around the interior. I'm gonna do a rear bench seat too. Everything's gonna match each other as far as the colorway on the seats goes. We 5-point seat harnesses inside. And I did not put the handbrake in here because it is just unnecessary work that we didn't want to dive into for a truck that only has around like 300 horsepower. It's like, it's whatever, you know, and probably even less than 300 right now with this whole setup. I don't even know. I'm embarrassed to take this thing on a dyno. It's a Toyota Tacoma, like who cares? But yeah, so no handbrake right now. And everything is pretty much complete for the build that I'm going for, minus the cage. So we are a wrap on this truck. So at this point, we just have to take it out, test everything out. I haven't taken this truck out yet with the new rear end, so I'm really excited. I'm going November 15th out to test it. So there's gonna be a YouTube video on that, especially when I get the new wiring harness. I'm gonna cover a video on that as well. But yeah, that's a wrap for my build for today. Make sure to subscribe. Check me out on Instagram if you wanna see whoop footage, jump footage, all that off-roading. That'll all be on my Instagram. So make sure you follow me on Instagram too. Thanks for tuning in. Take care.